All right, hello everybody. I think we're ready for this. Without any testing, I think we got the guitar making sound, and yeah, here I am pumping some more life into my uh, channel here by cranking out the lessons. And today we got one for you, something I've been meaning to make. Basically, what the title should be is what I think when somebody says play a 2, a 3, or a 6 chord. A 2, a 3, or a 6. In another lesson, we'll do the 1, the 4, or the 5 chord. And I'll tell you why right now. Why this group of 2, 3, and 6, and another lesson for 1, 4, and 5. Well, in case you don't know, my intermediate fans will know, but the beginners won't know what that is. But they'll hear 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, and you guys want to be able to follow along with your band and know what's going on or with other music. So here's what all that is about. Today you'll understand. Today we're talking 2, 3, and 6 because those are the minor chords. So yeah, and the 1, the 4, and the 5 are the major chords from the scale. And they say, Mark, you left out the 7. Well, because that's the diminished chord that leads back into the 1 chord. So we don't need to worry about that today. A diminished chord means it has a flatted 5th note, which you'll understand in a second. So what I think about first then, so we're going to go with like what I know, what is in my mind that I know this like the back of my hand. What's in anybody's mind that would know this like the back of their hand? Well, the first information that they would have is an understanding of major and minor chords, and this is how that works. As you see here at the top, we have a row. Let's explain these rows. These are intervals. You know your intervals of the scale. You're starting with a root, a flat 2, a 2, a flat 3, 3, a 4. The group of 3 5s, because the 5 is such a strong note, it affects the notes before its gravity is ahead, and it's like a tonal center pulling the notes on each side of it toward it. So that's why this operates as a flat 5, not a sharp 4 in most cases. But in general music theory speak, it's a flat 5. So okay, so we understand these intervals, but in the next thing we have an example key. That's why it says example here. Our example key, as always, is the key of C for all the whole notes. We have C. The D lines up with the 2. The E is on the 3. The 4 is the F. The G is the 5. The A is the 6. And the B is the 7. And that creates the Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do scale. As you see here, if you count in all these empty notes, the sharps and flats in between, like the C and D, the C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, whatever, they're related flats, it equals 12 notes. And to get back to C, or 12 notes before you get to C. Anyways, to create a key and make some music, you have this, you skip notes. And so when you skip notes, you end up with all the black keys of the piano, or the white keys of the piano, I should say, for all these whole notes. This is why we use the key of C. Anyways, it doesn't really matter, all that stuff. So the key and music, more than we can discuss here. But okay, so I know all that. That is basically what I'm trying to say. The next thing I know are my order of my notes, which is the C would be the 1. I actually could have put that there. It's the root, but we've got root up here, so maybe this would have been better served as saying that that's the number 1 chord is the C. So then the number 2 chord, the D note, is the second note of the scale. So it gets the number 2, which is where this 2 chord comes from. So the third note of the scale is E. It's the third note of the scale. It gets a 3, and on, and 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's where these number associations come from. It's very easy. It's just the second note of any Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do scale. In this example, it's the key of C. But this could be for any key. So now I know that there's an order, a chordal order, a chord order, chord order. I'm going to jail. A chord order. No. A chord order, an order of chords in this major scale. How come? We'll get to that in a second. The order is, and just after you deal with this for a while, you'll just always memorize this. 1 is major, 2 is minor. That's why we use the small m. 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 minor, and 7 diminished. Once again, while we're not using the 7 chord, the diminished means not only does it have a flat third, but it has the flatted fifth note instead of this regular fifth note. Nothing more we need to say about that right now. So we see here that I've already kind of picked them out here. The 2 is minor, the 3 is minor, and the 6 is minor. So I put that all right here. Why is it minor? Why is the D minor? Why is the E minor? And why is the A minor? And that's another thing we can see here. We've determined that these are the 2, 3, and the 6 are minor. Therefore, the 1, the 3, and or the 4 and the 5 are major. We can see here that it corresponds with the D, the E, and the A. But why? So if you look at the key of C, well, then our next understanding is just how chords work. A chord has a root, one of the thirds to make it, this is the variable that makes it happy or sad, major or minor, and then the fifth. And why is that? Well, the root and the fifth act like a shell. Here's a root and a fifth that you probably are familiar with. Yeah, you know that song. So that's called a power chord because it's just a root and a fifth. They work well together. It's like the most strong notes with each other, and you'll always hear that the 5 it wants to resolve to the 1, creates a nice. The 1 is always a nice home base from the 5, almost a perfect home base from the 5, so they say. So 1 and 5 are like the shell. So the third is going to be like the inside. That's a minor third. This is the minor third. This is the major third. Now that's a little out of order because our fifth is lower than our third, but the fifth is so strong it works anywhere in the scale as a fifth. Anyway, so what do we need to know about how that works? How do those come from the scale is what a beginner will ask. So let's answer that question by looking here. These 2 stars represent the empty notes in between the tones here. So for a minor chord, you have 2, you skip 2 notes, and you get your minor third. Then you have 3 notes skipped to get to the fifth. And in order to get to the same fifth, but have a note in the middle different, we just reverse the thing. We have 3 notes that we skip in the front and 2 notes here. And that creates a major third interval. And we can see that here when we skip 1, 2, 3 notes, we've got the third there. If we only skip 2 notes from the root 1, the 2s, we land at the minor third. So let's take a look now. And you can an interesting thing to note about that is how these are stacks of notes that are reversed from each other. This has the flat third. That interval there between there and there is actually a major third. So a minor chord has a major third in it. It's just on the bottom. A major chord has a minor third in it. It's just on the bottom. The major third is on the top, and the minor third interval is on the bottom. Something interesting and helpful to know down the road, but not necessarily something I would need to know to come to get through this lesson. But it is helpful to add that in there. So why is the C major and the D minor? Why is the 2, the 3, and the 6 minor? Let's take a look at a major chord first. We have the root, the third, and the fifth. We need to, first of all, chords are made by skipping tones. You don't make C, D, and E because those are just neighboring notes. It would just sound like a jumble of neighboring tones all jumbled together in sound. Kind of like, it'd be even hard to figure to even play that on the guitar. So that's not how you didn't make a chord. We skip a tone. We go C, E, and G. So let's take a look. C, we've got the major third and the 5. Let's start at D. Now, it's not apparent on here because the numbers are now starting at 2. But if we count out to F, we've got a tone, and our F is only 2 tones away from the D, so that is you can see that the F is acting as a flat third. And then it stands to reason that the A, D, F, A, it's got to be 1, 2, 3 tones apart. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, yep, there it is, the 5th. Let's do the same thing from E. We've got 1, 2 to get to G, and 1, 2, 3 to get to B, E, G, B. And from the A, the same thing. To get to C, we've got 1, 2, and the C always follows the B. We can even put that on the screen there. And so 1, 2 to get to C. And from C, we're going to have 1, 2, 3 to get to E, A, C, E, our minor chord. So now we know why these chords are minor chords in the scale, and these other ones would be major. We can just quickly go over the F. We've got the 3 in front there, the 3 tones to get to A, and then the 2 tones to get to C, F, A, C as that chord. And G, G, B, D, we got 3 tones to get to the B, and 2 tones will get us to the D, okay? So, and the same thing for the, well, we did all 3. We did C, F, and G. So, we know major and minor chords now. And then I just need to know a major shape on my guitar. Now, of course, there's this 5th string shape that we know. So if we were playing G, and then even maybe on the 5th string here. Cool to know those, but technically I don't think those are just so old. You know, I know that those are there. What I really think is this. I would start with this chord shape right here and place it anywhere. Someone says, hey, let's play an A flat. Let's pick A flat. Let's not pick something so common. Which I want to show you guys that just you can think of, understand this stuff from anywhere on the fretboard and not be confused. It can even be a note that seems like it might be confusing. Like let's pick A flat, okay, or G sharp. A flat, G sharp, A flat. There it is. So I'm going to play this chord shape right here. Where did my mouse go? Is my mouse way over here? All right. So this chord shape right here, this in the cage system, that would be the E or an E minor shape on the 4th fret. So the 6th string root minor chord shape is what we need to know. And it looks upside down here because that's how we visualize the fretboard on our channel. Is evidenced by the low E, then A, D, G, B, and high E string here. Okay, let's move on to our next idea here. So the next thing I'm going to think here is I'm going to know, first of all, going back here, the intervals. We've got green for root. You can see the light blue here is since we're doing minor today, so we want, where's our minor third in this chord shape? It's here. Then we have our 5th here, back to a root, 5th and a root. And it is also helpful to know that a 5 is always above a 1. And then a 3 is always above a 5, is always above a 1. Very helpful to know that. So that's kind of like the order of tones. And so you say, well, Mark, wouldn't there be a 3 over here? Yes, there would be, but we'll get to this other page to find that out. So the next thing you're going to know, and here's that chord down on A flat, and that same shape, but you see some other notes here in a familiar shape. That is the minor pentatonic scale. So whenever someone says, hey, I need a 2 chord, a 3 chord, or a 6 chord, this is the 6 chord in the scale. Or, you know, it's in this, it's A flat minor, and you'll maybe figure out if it's the 2, the 6, or the 3rd later. But if you need that, I'm trying to put on my strap here. There's your root to always go back home, end your lines on. You can end your line on a blue note. You can end your line. You can end your line on a red. But it's going to really sound like home when you get to a green note. So with the pentatonic, we've got basically a pool of notes that will, and this will work. No, we haven't really determined. We'll determine at the end whether it's a 2, a 3, or a 6 chord actually. Right now, we're just collecting a pool of notes we could use over no matter what anybody said. This, if this is the 6 in the scale, if this is the 3rd or the 2, this will work. This pentatonic is universal. Now, from there, we want more than just the pentatonic, and everybody's probably already familiar with this lesson so far. So let's expand this, and you'll still be familiar with this. But let's increase our pentatonic playability by understanding the next visualization I'm going to have or understand is my pentatonics all up and down the scale. And what we underlined here is the one, of course, that we just played, this guy right here. And then there's the neighbor one next door. And they kind of, because they're all connected to each other, it's almost like sometimes you don't see the shapes. And one of the big understandings I had to have as a student trying to get these other shapes in my mind, but back when I only knew the pentatonic scale and everything else was this cumbersome extra memory, I had to tell myself that, hey, once I'm playing this pentatonic shape, that wall of notes right there is half of the next shape I need. Playing some wrong notes there, but anyways, wouldn't be our channel if we didn't sit here screwing things up. Alright, so I gotta get through this and stop yapping around. We got our shapes. I'm on this 2nd shape. I'm gonna go into the 3rd shape here. Oh, that's probably screwed that up. So I was down a fret. Our next shape. Our next shape. Back to our original shape. All right, so maybe it would have been better if I just played them straight up and down instead of noodling around there. So anyways, but I just wanted to show you, that's, if you have these patterns and you have this ability to noodle that's a little why I did that. You're arpeggiating the minor chord, 5, root, minor 3rd. Which is why you hear David Gilmour use that little lick in a whole bunch of solos, namely Pigs, 3 different ones. So, okay, moving on from there. So we got our minor and our pentatonic. So that'll give us a lot of playability right there if we still have to take a mental minute to figure things out here. And as the band is playing, like if you kind of need to know to yourself, like, well, hey, what is this? What is this chord? You can, when we get to the final part where we figure it out, if it's the 2, the 3, or the 4, you can use these little extra 2 notes to experiment with to just kind of figure out for yourself where you might be in the song. So, but before that, let's get to sheet 4 here. And the next thing I'm going to know, actually long before we get to this is the 2, the 3, or the 5 chord, above my pentatonics, I am going to know my triad shapes. And this is just the triads on the D, G, and B strings. Well, here we are at A flat, not G, so A flat. G, B, and D, but it's not highlighted on this board. But you know, the 5, it's just part of that, part of the chord. Here we are right here. Here's my fingers right here. I'm just part of this chord right here, part of this complete breakfast. When I play the next triad shape, I know that there's that my making part of a D minor shape chord. The D minor chord is what I'm talking about. That we normally play down here. Well, that shape is part of this shape. So you know my triads up and down the fretboard, and you can see here where the triads fit in and out of the pentatonic shape. So I could be like. And some of these gray notes are chord tones that just only have the these triads highlighted. But you can see what once you know them and the pentatonics, you know when you're playing your pentatonic shapes where you're going. Right there, I went from the 5, a gray note to the 5. Oops. And then slid up into green. Then caught. Down to green. Slide up to blue. Minor third. Now I'm in second pentatonic. That's a gray note. Now that finished kind of sound is because I'm on a red. I'm on a 5. Gray and resolve to green. Okay. So you can see how many miles you can get out of your soloing with just this understanding. Well, let's expand this now into this. Now we have all the chord tones. Now we want to have this understanding too. Now highlighted in black, I have those original triads, but you can see here where I got this, was trying to tell you that this is that D minor shape. There's the red, green, and blue for a 5, 1, 3 chord. So for some tension there, and 2 and then full resolve on green. Away, back home. Related to the chord, but these gray notes, which are the 4 and the 7, by the way. That's what's up here. 4 7 4 7 1 4 7 1 4 4 5 4 4 5 7 7 1 4 5 5 5 7 1 minor third 1 4 1 4 1 4 1 7 1 minor third 1 5 1. You can start to just play these tones and try to like hear for yourself what these intervals, what punch that they pack. So I went up the chord tones first. Green, blue, red. Went through with them. That got a little boring, so I had tension with the gray. Stalling there, and I need to release it. I build it up until I red, gray, green. Go away a little bit to the third and back to green. The 6 there, or 7, is going to the 5, 7, 5, 4, 3, 7, 7, 7, 1. And here I can do, every time I hit a blue note, I was bending. It sounds cool to bend that 3 almost to the major third, but not quite. You could even get there. Ooh, I bet we're getting some wind sound because I got my fan on. Shut that off, and the sound of my voice probably just got a lot better. Sorry about the fan sound the whole time. I can't pick that up in my headphones, but it comes back when I try to review the video. So let's get a run in now. Now here's a cool run you could know. And this is we're going to do this like 2 different ways. This is both the same run, but there's 2 different ways you can think about this. In this one, I've got like a runway here, the 3rd to the 4th to the 5th. And once you get to the 5th, it's easier to see here. Whenever you've got this big box in your pentatonic scale, where my plus sign is circling, you can think of 5, 7, root, flat 3rd. So now I did a second version here where this is kind of broken this way to kind of elucidate what is happening right here. It's the same thing, but remember there's the G to B string shift, so it breaks the box up a little bit. Now, anytime that you get to this part of this square, you're back to the beginning runway. So there's a neat connection here between this lick. So if I was here, it's just a nice way, slick way to get way up the fretboard pretty fast. Taking a bunch of good sounding steps on the way where you don't have any wrong notes, and it sounds cool because you're not stepping on every note, kind of making it a little obvious you're walking up a scale, And this is one reason why, what scale over what chord, it's kind of not really I mean, you have to know that stuff. That's what I'm showing you here. But you're not really playing necessarily exact scales all the time. When you hear these players playing, they're not grabbing these notes from, full on scales. It may just be a pattern like this that works. 3, 4, 5, 7, 7, root, 3, 4, 5, root, 3, root, 7, 5, root. All right, so there's that, and the same run here, just kind of pictured a little differently. But this may be easier for some of you to conceptualize. You could also go. Now I just did this little group right here, which is you can see on its own right here. I'm just thinking the runway and then a square, and that's all you're repeating. So it just doesn't link together as good because we're missing, this 7 right here. We're not technically we're using the 7 right here. So we're going. So then we have to skip that minor third, but now we're on the runway again. So we got. And then we know we've got the. I just was able to do that because I knew the pentatonic shape that I was basically above. Calling this above, even though when you're looking at your fretboard, I guess you could consider that above or below, I guess. But so. Trying to get that in the camera picture here. Even though my guitar is far away, I don't think anybody can see anything, and I'm not using a. Not using a fretboard here that has nice clear markers. It's got this fancy pants Steve Vai inspired Tree of Life, or Steve Vai licensed, or Steve Vai something. He's the one that kind of made that famous, as far as I know. All right, so there's that. A pentatonic run. I guess we got to move on from there. So now we've added in the 4 and the 7. What other notes are we missing? That would be the 6 and the 2. And the 6 and the 2 are what make these go from pentatonic into diatonic, or from 5-note scales. This is the missing 6 and 7 notes. What are the missing 6 and 7 notes? There is a method to the madness. They are the half steps. Notice there are no half steps in this scale. And the half steps are kind of where that milk and honey come from in your scale. It's the. The half steps are just, to me, vitally important to milking the sadness out of a minor chord. You could also put a minor chord, and these half steps fall into 3 different places that are very easy to understand, and that will make the difference between a 2, a 3, and a 6. This is where the difference comes in. So what could make this chord, now that we know all these notes and runs, a 2 or a 3 or a 4? Or a 6, I'm sorry. There's got to be some kind of difference, and here it is. And this is what I would know. If someone said, this is the 2, or as I was playing it, I could, my ear picked up that it was the 2, or I just experimented with these note choices and determined quickly it was a 2. You can see here, I'll show you how quick you could determine. Look inside the big box right here. Okay, this is where our eyes are right now. If I detect that these two notes are the most pleasing sounding notes of this group of 4 notes inside the gray notes, right? I just picked up that this is a 2 chord. All right, if I, just to jump ahead here, if I heard that it was these 2 notes, I would hear a more rare but possible 3 chord. You can hear that's definitely got this more of the most unusual, maybe would be the word, because it's not as common as a 2 chord or a 6 chord, 2 being the lighter, happier version of a minor, and then the 6 chord here being the most common balanced version of a minor chord, and this would be your Stairway to Heaven chord, the 6. Of course, Stairway to Heaven would be is using a natural A, or a half step down, an A flat, for our example here. And you can hear that's kind of like the most vanilla, normal sounding minor scale. And if there's a similarity, and if it's almost hard to detect the difference between this Aeolian scale, which is the most normal sounding minor, to the Dorian or to the Phrygian, check it out. I mean, look at the purple note for Phrygian. It moves to the left. And if we go back to Aeolian, now look at the yellow note, the 6. Before we looked at the 2 went flat. Now let's look at the 6. The 6 goes to a normal 6. The 6 was flat. It was actually a sharp 5th, if you want to consider that. Well, you would consider it a flat 6 because in Aeolian, because you've already got a 5th in the scale. So that's the 6, but and the 7, but don't worry about that too much. It doesn't have to make a difference right now. I just know where these positions are, and I can jam across this. So let's take Dorian, and we know that all you have to do now, check it out. We know that the pentatonic breaks out into these 2 bits with the copied note for the E string up here. I added these gut notes that I added, these 2 notes to get to diatonic. All I could think about was adding them into this one, and it works out. But it does help sometimes to this hanging on the side of this piece right here. For example, if I moved all the way up here and I was playing this scale, I might not realize that when I'm going down here in this part, these 6 notes right here, that there's a larger shape right there of the other pentatonic scale, and that's where I'm going to add in my gut notes on the right side. By right side, I mean of this choice of either being these 2 notes, which are the left side, these 2 notes on the right side, or the Aeolian, which is one on the left, one on the right. The Dorian has them on the right side. So here I might not, kind of as a new guy, I might not visualize that, so it's helpful to know that as if I'm here, where's my half step? And then navigation-wise, I need to kind of know these half steps will always complete a square. It just puts the square in a different spot. So if here is my original chord, my navigation square is here. I know right there I'm in the middle of my 2 shapes, scale shapes I know. Or also want to know here is where this scale connects to these little triad shapes. This is another important understanding that I will have. I know that whenever I'm in my shape, whatever my third is, my flat third, is a box. For resolve. So if I'm up here, where's my box? Well, I'm playing this triad shape right here. So my box, my third is at the top. I know I'm in my in this shape here, my third is in a box, and it doesn't look like it is because it's that broken box that is broken because of the G and B string shift. And you've seen this a million times on this channel. It's the half box. This kind of row here. There's two rows. This row and this row of these boxes. This is your when you think about the E and A together, the D and G, and the B and E together, you get this nice row of complete boxes that will, where the plus sign is now, I'm in the Dorian shape, what I would call the Dorian shape. If I was just thinking shapes now, forgetting intervals or anything, just playing in noodling and pentatonics, which could do. Now I want to get to that Aeolian box. I'm going to connect. Use my theory of connection here, where this box will always connect in the corner there to that box. Now once I'm in this, I can say, oh, I'm in my Aeolian shape. The pentatonic there with the gut notes. My box was here, and I knew my 2 was always on that corner of the box, so I knew that was my resolve note. Not too hard. Phrygian is similar but different. We still have this, our original chord is still here. Remember, it's this chord. Actually, we can even think, well, no, this one. I guess, yeah. I used to have it on here, but anyways, it's this chord. And we've expanded it to this. Now our gut notes are 6, a yellow 6 and a purple 2 are on this side of the scale. And I'm going to think in terms of my triad. Anytime I have a 1, I have a, I'm in a box. So this shape here has 2 boxes for Phrygian. Easy to remember, but you probably won't be jamming around on the 3 too much unless you're more making, certain kind of music, more maybe metal, but you might even want to get into some more advanced versions of this scale if you're playing metal. This is going to be a little bit more Santana-ish, maybe a little more. Now I keep going to the 1, but as you can hear, another thing about this scale that I think makes it a little less popular is it doesn't resolve as well to my ear, to the 1. Let's move on. And maybe where we should have started actually was with our balanced scale, from natural remember in other lessons, there's corresponding scales to major and minor. So we have where we have the major third, you have sorry, the major 1 chord, you have the minor 6 chord is relative major and minor. So this is like relative minor or natural minor. And as you see, it's your balance scale. There's, it's got a taste of Phrygian and a taste of Dorian to give it that balance quality. So if I'm thinking about my my first triad here, well, it's not my, I guess I could consider that the 1 triad in minor. Anytime I have a 3, I got a half step just below. Anytime I got a 5, I have a half step above. So if I go up here, here's my third. I'm right here. And my 5 is going to have the yellow note. So my third has the purple note behind it. 5. And the 1 will get to the purple note, which leads me to a third. 5, 3, 1. Now when I played that note, I made it Phrygian by accident. That's a yellow bend. 5, 4, 3, 1. 3, 2, 3, 1. Milking that half step. Now, how many times have you probably even heard that lick? Some guitarists milking the half steps. Oops. Tried a little bend there on the third. Purple note bend though. You bend this to the purple, bend the 5 into the yellow, and those are your money notes. And there you have it. That's what I would think if I was thinking the 1, the 3, or the 6. And of course, once again, there's our scale tones. You see it reorganized everything. But at the same time, these are the same shapes. They just kind of shift. It's basically, another way to think about it is where your chord is in the midst of the master pattern. Your chord is moving in the master pattern, but here we're making it, with like a static chord in one spot, which it stays in the master pattern of the master scale shape is moving down the fretboard. Because you can see here, we have our, our box conglomerate right here. Here's our full box row. Here's what we call the broken box row. And this time I also try to highlight these, by the way. If you noticed, I've got like blue highlight around these. I was trying to find a color that helped this stick out, and none of them would do it. So like, for example, here I use green. You can barely see it. Here I use like a red. You can barely see it. And here I used a blue, and you can barely see it. But so for my... And you might even know the shape as the Aeolian shape, or when Aeolian is 6. So here we go. Once again, all these shapes, the Aeolian shape, the Dorian shape, and the Phrygian shape, which are scale shapes, not to be confused with modes, will fit inside these pentatonics. When it comes to playing modes, this will also work, though. This shape, playing the Aeolian shape over the minor chord, will allow you to play, and this understanding will give you all the notes across the fretboard. If that chord is playing or being held down on a piano, and the bass note is playing that, you know, A flat, and elucidating that, and maybe picking up some of the keynotes of this Aeolian. I'm trying to wrap this lesson up, so I'm not going to delve into that. What are the keynotes here? Basically, one of these, uh, um, especially both together, which would elucidate this. You know, your pattern is Aeolian here. You'll be playing an Aeolian if this A flat minor or A flat Aeolian, right? If this A flat chord is, you know, playing and the bass note is now enunciating or playing, or some keyboard has this note in the chord, then it's going to sound Dorian, and this is the scale you're going to use to play Dorian up and down the fretboard, and you're playing Dorian. And if I was a real pro, I would have plugged my phone into my amp here. I don't have the cable to do that right now, and I could have played A flat Dorian backing track, an A flat Phrygian backing track, and an A flat Aeolian backing track to show you all this. How these are the notes that will plug in. If you wanted to get around um, all that modal stuff and still be able to play with these modes, then you just go back to this right here. You just play your pentatonics. It doesn't have any of the gut notes. It has all the framework notes of these modes, but doesn't have any of the gut notes. Now you won't sound as pro. You're missing out on the milk notes. So that's where, you know, this is why, you know, guitarists know these other things. So, you know, you can really get the most professional sound out of this system. And then you also know these plain white notes are the, you know, notes that you're going to slide away from. Should you want a moment of ultra tension into release, you could slide perhaps from this into a 1. Might sound really pretty good at the end of a lick. Let's hear that. Gave it more of a little bit of a hiccup sound there, but had some effect. So there you go. We're going to leave this lesson at that to try to keep it appealing. And it's, you know, when I look at lessons and they're an hour long, I go, I don't got an hour. I don't want to hear some guy ramble. So I skip out on those lessons. I'm trying to make my lessons as short as possible now. But boy, you know, guitar stuff needs, and especially if you want to appease beginners, you really got to go along and explain things. But I think I'm doing better. I hope I'm doing better with less rambling, and hopefully not you know, making annoying sounds or too many ums and ahs. I do that a lot, and I'm trying to work on it. If I scripted these lessons, it would be a lot better. So that's it. Have a great day, guys. You know, you're awesome, and thank you very much for watching this lesson, and giving it your best attention. You know, and now that our lesson is over, I'll position the camera so you can see my guitar more instead of looking at my bum head here. And would have been better to do the lesson like this, right? So you can see all that, but too late now. Let's catch you on the major. Next time we're going to do what are we going to do? You guys shouting it out there? All right, I heard you. That was awesome. You said the 1, the 4, and the 5. What I think of when I hear 1, 4, and 5, and lo and behold, it's a slightly different chord shape. You know, that one note is different, and it's the same pentatonics, and the same thing with triads into pentatonics into the master shapes, which would be Ionian, Lydian, and Mixolydian. I hope you said that. All right, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow or the next day or whenever I make the next video. And you're awesome. So see you soon.